Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Terry James Gingrass, and this is Dr. G's ADHD Chat. And this is a show that tries to make the world a little safer for ADHD and ADHD families. Today's a religious holiday, of course, and we're all of us still in semi-quarantine status. And for many of us, perhaps most of us, it's getting a little old. It's getting to be, it's a strain. Let's just say, change is always stressful, and this is like a major change. Most parents aren't going to work. Most kids aren't going to school. There are no ball games, no sports at all. There are no concerts. You can't go to the movies. I mean, it's not cool. It's not fun out there at all. And I'm sure many of you are getting a little sick of getting cooped up in the house with the kids. And those of you who aren't probably don't have kids. Nah, I'm kidding. But there are some things we can do. I mean, we always talk about a lot about attitude and that sort of thing, and I do believe that ultimately gets you through most everything. But attitude is about a cognitive thing. Attitude is about the way you look at stuff. That instead of always focusing on the negative, which basically we're trained to do. I mean, that's what they do for us in school, is teach us how to look for the errors, look for the mistakes, look for what's wrong. And most of us also, that's the way we're parented, and that's the way we do our own parenting. And there are a number of things that can help you get through this and help with basic survival. Number one, I think, and the easiest one to talk about, is a gratitude exercise. Okay, it's a technique that comes out of positive psychology. Did I mention that I'm a clinical psychologist and neuropsychologist? I'm also the parent of an ADHD adult, and I freely confess that I have made every mistake you can make with an ADHD child, mostly out of gross ignorance. Back in the day, we just didn't know a whole lot. And I wish I had known then what I know now. Let's just put it that way. There were some things that would have made life a lot easier for everybody if I had just known about it. I mean, I wasn't honestly sure what I was dealing with. I have told you, I think, every week, but I went through an entire APA, American Psychological Association approved graduate program and internship without ever hearing ADHD. Nobody ever said anything about it. I never had a course in it. I never had part of a course that talked about it. So we just didn't know much. Now we know a whole bunch more. And one of the things, I think, one of the big lessons, and one of the things I talk about when I'm doing parenting is it may not be easy, but you really gotta think about the things you enjoy about your ADHD child. Because frankly, there's a lot to enjoy. They have a kind of a unique perspective on things. They usually have a wicked sense of humor. They usually are energetic, creative, and don't really mean to hurt anybody or anything. So, there's a lot there to enjoy. I think I've told a story about my ADHD kiddo who, said, "Dad, fingernails are bigger than toenails, right?" I thought about it. Yeah, generally. Well, then why are toenail clippers bigger than fingernail clippers. I mean, who thinks about stuff like that? I don't know. Well, apparently, at least some ADHDers do. But it's a unique perspective, and it should be encouraged, because that kind of thinking, those ventures outside the box, those are the things that help us improve life. We can improve not only our individual lives, but improve the lives for all of us. The big changes in society are typically made by people who think outside the box. And that needs to be encouraged. Unfortunately, most of what our ADHD children are exposed to is about complying, about being obedient, about turning your homework in when you're supposed to turn your homework in and doing it exactly the way they say to do it, and so on and so forth. We can do better. We can encourage creativity. We just don't bother because it's tricky. It's harder to teach, and harder to grade. And we will probably never do that. Okay. The way you do a gratitude exercise is that you sit yourself down someplace quiet, hopefully, a couple of times a day, usually first thing in the morning and last thing at night. And you think about 4 or 5 things that you're grateful for. And doesn't have to be big stuff. Doesn't have to be Nobel Prize winners. Just simple things like, had a great meal tonight. Just small stuff, whatever you're grateful for. And you do that, and you keep doing that, and you keep it all in some kind of a notebook or something. And after a while, a month or 2, you've got some stuff to look back over. And thinking like that and writing that stuff down actually changes your attitude. It is a big thing for controlling it, because, we tend to get focused on the negative. Oh, I can't do this. Gosh, I wish March Madness hadn't been canceled. Oh, gee, I'd love to go out to a restaurant tonight. You focus on what you can't get. You focus on what you want but you can't have. The gratitude thing helps you recognize, well, shoot, I'm in a house, I have food, I am reasonably healthy for most of us, that is, and my family is doing reasonably well. That's quite a lot, actually, when you think about it. So, gratitude exercises, and I recommend those. I really do. They sound sort of woo-woo, but basically, we're all of us having this internal dialogue in our heads. And that internal dialogue is most of the time focused on the negative. Oh, God, I wish I was taller. Oh, God, I wish I hadn't gained so much weight. Oh, God, I wish I had chosen a different path in life. Why did I major in that when I was in college? Why didn't I take that other job that was being offered? Why did I settle for this one? And that's what tends to go on in people's mind. Why does my neighbor spend 4 hours blowing leaves in his yard every Saturday? Stuff like that. You start, and what that does, though, is it puts you in a negative mood. It puts you in a downer mood. Whereas the whole gratitude thing is, wow, I'm glad we're having a beautiful day. I'm glad the sun is shining. I'm glad the trees are blooming. I'm glad that it's likely we'll have March Madness next year. I'm glad everything I've got is paid for. Those of us who can say that. That changes your mood, has an impact on the way you feel about things, because it's always there. You just don't pay attention to it. You're looking for the negative thing. You're looking for the downer thing. That was probably helpful at one time in life. Back in the days of the frontier and all that stuff, when you had to be aware of that there might be a mountain lion just waiting to pounce on you or something. So you had to be aware. You had to look for stuff. Oops, did I hear a leaf get rustled? Did I hear a twig get stepped on? Stuff like that. We don't have to do that nowadays. I mean, it's not bad to be able to turn on that stuff, tune into it a little bit, if you ever get yourself in that kind of a survival situation. But for most of us, it's just living it out, just getting through it. Every day will be like every other day, or whatever we choose to make out of every day. But if we're grateful, if we recognize that, this is sort of a pain, but in terms of life, death, that sort of stuff, it's not that big a deal. Okay? So, one other thing, and there are two parts to this presentation today. The other part is that knowing how to what we used to call relax, we used to call it relaxation training. That was mostly because people got facial tics if you called it meditation. Now people seem to be more accepting of meditation as the title for things. But basically it's any of a collection of techniques that help you get a little more centered and have your physiological arousal reduced. Okay, there are just tons of different techniques, literally. There are bunches and bunches of them. I keep going back to a study by a guy named Spiegel, who was studying transcendental meditation and why it worked. For those of you who are a little young in the tooth, transcendental meditation was a technique, what was his name? Maharini Mahesh Yogi, I think it was the name. I could be wrong. But anyway, it was just a technique, and the Beatles were famous for being his disciples and meditating and that sort of thing. But Spiegel decided he would study this guy because he could tell that it was working for people, but he wasn't sure what specifically was working. So after a fairly intensive study, he came to the conclusion that there were four main parts, four things that worked to help reduce your physiological arousal and help you get a little bit more centered. He said the four components were: 1, comfortable posture. You don't have to be all twisted up, trying to sit in the lotus position or anything like that. You can be sitting in a chair, preferably, fairly upright so you don't fall asleep by accident. Comfortable posture, minimum of distractions. That is, this is a skill, okay? And the more you practice it, the better you get with it. And pretty soon you can do it in a crowded workplace. But when you're first starting out, you're not that good at it. Okay, so you have to practice, and until you get good at it, you don't want a whole bunch of stuff going on around you. You don't want the dog barking or the cat crawling into your lap, or one of the kids yelling at the other one, or those sorts of things. You don't want distractions, okay? And that means you probably don't want to be in the middle of the house. You want to be some room off to the side. Because, as I said, it is a skill, and you have to get good at it. You have to practice it, okay? It's not like an aspirin that you can wait until you need it to take it. It is something that you need to be practicing daily. And after a while, you get pretty good at it, okay? The next thing you need, okay, remember, comfortable posture, minimum of distractions. Third thing you need is a focus. And a focus can be almost anything, okay? Some people prefer a verbal focus. Some people prefer a visual focus, okay? The verbal focus people are more into repeating a short word or a short phrase, or listening to somebody describe a relaxing scene. Visualizers are more into actually being described a scene, and also, or in addition to, you can use things like staring at a candle, or some sort of they make all sorts of different meditation aids that you just hang on the wall and just stare at them, and they're a complicated design usually, and that really helps with the focusing and with what you're trying to accomplish. Because basically what you're trying to accomplish is you're trying to keep the worry thoughts from taking over. You know, oh God, I can do this. What do I do? Okay, you need to focus on something else other than what is getting you upset. And then the last thing is, and this is the trickiest one for all us go-getter types, is a passive set of mind. All that means in a lot of words is that you want to focus passively on your technique. Focus on the technique, not on the outcome you want, okay? It doesn't work to try to do this stuff with your typical limited frustration tolerance kind of way of doing things. You know, if you could do that, you could just look at yourself in the mirror first thing in the morning and yell, "Relax!" And that would do it. But it doesn't, okay? So you need a passive set of mind. Focus on your technique. Trust your technique, knowing that your technique will take you to a relaxed place. Okay, the easiest relaxation technique, it's easiest to understand, it's the hardest to do, okay? Basically is breathing focus. And that's basically what Transcendental Meditation had, and that's also what Spiegel primarily focused on. The deal is you need to breathe diaphragmatically. Breathing from the diaphragm means that when the diaphragm's the big muscle that separates your chest from your abdomen, your thorax from your abdomen, okay? And when it's just below your ribs. And when you inhale, your diaphragm should relax into your abdominal cavity, and your belly should go out, and that helps you kind of suck in a lot of air. And then you pause, and then when you exhale, your stomach goes in and squeezes the air out. The thing you have to watch out for with all breathing focus activities is that you have to make sure that your exhalation is at least as long as your inhalation. Okay? Now you know, if you think about it, that you can exhale a heck of a lot faster than you can inhale. That's how you can inflate a balloon, okay? That's not good for you. And if you do that 5 or 6 times in a row, you'll get hypoxic. You'll blow off too much oxygen, and you'll get dizzy and lightheaded. We've all had that experience, probably in schoolyards and that sort of thing. So what you want to do is at least make sure that your exhalation is slow. Okay? There are all kinds of different techniques where they, inhale for 4 counts and hold it for, and exhale it for 6 counts or whatever. That stuff drives me nuts, okay? I am just not obsessive enough to sit there and count everything in my breathing. So what I prefer to do is just focus on exhaling slowly. That's all I do. I think slowly. I don't try to count and make sure it's exactly the same length as my inhalation. That would make me nervous. And nervous is the whole thing we're trying to avoid, right? So I just make sure that I exhale slowly. Sometimes I'll pretend I've got a candle, a lit candle, right up about 1.5 feet from my mouth or my face. And it's okay for the flame to flutter, but it's not okay for it to go totally flat, and it's not okay for you to blow it out, okay? You just want a little gentle flutter. But anyway, so Spiegel finally decided that coupled with the breathing technique, you should think, in his way is some simple term to yourself. He said the simplest thing you can do is just think one every time you exhale, and that'll do it for you. Later on, he wrote a subsequent book, and he said you can make what you're thinking to yourself a little more pertinent to your belief system or something like that. Peace and love, Jesus is love, whatever you got, belong. It just had to be a short phrase. Couldn't be a real long thing, but just something short. It doesn't, honestly matter that much, long as you know that there's one thing you're supposed to be thinking about, and you're going to get distracted. You're going to go off, and you're going to start thinking about things you need to do, errands you need to run, that kind of stuff. When you do that, you just gently bring your attention back to your breathing focus, and one. Okay? So just quick demonstration. You inhale diaphragmatically. You hold it a little bit, and then you exhale. And as you exhale, you think one. And then you do it again. And it's as simple as that. Knowing you're going to wander off, your attention's going to go someplace else, just bring it back to your breathing, wherever you are, and say your phrase again. Okay, so one. You keep doing that. You keep bringing your attention gently back to your breathing, and one, you will center yourself. You will get more relaxed. You will be more comfortable. Remember, it is a skill, and you have to work at it to develop it. Initially, probably shoot for 5 minutes. Okay, and as you get better at it, maybe the second week you go for 8 minutes, and maybe the third week 10. Eventually you get up to around 20 minutes or so, and for most people that's about enough. And then you need to decide if you're going to do it in the morning and in the evening, or just in the morning, or just in the evening. It doesn't really matter. Whatever you need. There aren't that many rules, okay? Just do enough so that you get the effect you want. A cool side effect of this is that you become more aware of when you start to get tensed up. You recognize it early, and that means you can do something about it right then. Okay? You're not really focusing on paying attention to your tension, anxiety levels. It's just one of the things that happens when you start learning how to relax yourself, how to calm yourself down, is that you become more aware of when you're not in that nice relaxed state. Okay, that's it for me this week. Gratitude exercise, breathing focus exercise. And remember, this is the show for ADHDers trying to make the world safe for ADHD, because ADHDers are outside the box thinkers, and the only people who change the world are outside the box thinkers. So, we will catch you next time. Stay safe. Take care of yourselves.